Hello everyone, we're going to do another Cheetah 3D tutorial today. So this time I thought, let's just dive into something I don't consider deep, but something that you can certainly get lost in, and that's textures. Textures is what drives, or what's partly driving your animation, is you have to have good textures. So, to get texture, you can just click Add Material here. Now you get this little menu bar. Now you can click on Default, and you get this normal average material. So let me get a box out. You know, better yet, a ball. So I have my ball. And if I render it, it's just going to look like that. This material is the same thing as this. So if I apply it to here, nothing's going to change. So, I'm going to delete this. Now, you have a couple different categories of default textures to choose from. You have your glass, metal, organic, special, stone, toon, and wood. Now, with cloth and environment, these are two custom categories that you can make. And I'll tell you how you can make these categories. But right now I want to focus on the default textures. So let's get a metal. Let's choose gold. So I'm going to make multiple balls here. I'm just copying and pasting. Okay, so first off, if I put the gold on this ball here, put the gold on this ball here and I render, that doesn't look like gold. You can hardly see the ball. So here's what you have to do. You see this camera here? Well, in order to really make metals look good, you need to go up to tag, and we're going to click HDRI, and that'll give it an HDRI tag. That'll give the camera right here this HDRI tag. What does the HDRI tag do? Well, an HDRI image is an image that is supposed to be the reflection of a metal. So let's load. These are all my files from my Transformers Mario Kart video. Where is the picture? Here it is. So if we look at this picture up close real quick. Come on. Just get there. This is what the picture looks like. So it's a 3D image that's supposed to be wrapped around this. If you want an HDRI image, you could easily get one off of Google. There are millions of HDRI images on Google Images you can search. That will work just fine. So, now that I have my HDRI image here, I can render. And we have this. Now, we have our gold ball, but we have this weird background. So, there's a little setting in the HDRI that says background. You usually want to uncheck that. Usually, not all the time, but sometimes you want to uncheck that. I keep on wanting to save this file, but I don't want to. Okay, so that's our metal. That's just an example of our metal. These are my default metals, by the way, so you won't get these. Organic. Let's do reptile. There's your reptile. You can see the reflection off of there. Special. this is kind of the miscellaneous category. So we can just do something like membrane. And that membrane kind of gives it a clear, translucent look. Stone, pretty self-explanatory. Let's just pick this one. Or better yet, there we go. So here's your tune. So these are the more flat shapes, or not flat shapes, flat textures. This is if you're making maybe a cartoon or something. And you can kind of see there's an outline there around the texture. Here, if I change the camera color, if I change the background color to white, you can see there's an outline there. So that's good for making like cartoons and stuff. I'm gonna make another ball because I ran out of balls. Wood, pretty self-explanatory. Is that it? Yes, that's it. So, and obviously these textures do not look like textures when they're in the editing mode. So, yeah. So those are your default textures. There are many more that you can play around with. I just chose one from each category. So now let's pretend like you want to make your own custom texture. But you're not very good at creating your own textures within the app. Well, here's what you can do. I choose to go to Google Images every once in a while. Not always, but every once in a while. And let's say we wanted some stone. Stone texture. You can easily get hundreds of search results here and get your stone textures. But what I think is a really, really good resource, textures.com. Textures.com is a website that you can join for free. You have to create an account, but they don't want much from you. All they want is your email, and that's about it. For legal reasons and stuff. But this website has hundreds of textures. So you wanted stone. Well, you have rock. So you have all your rock textures here. And when you're signed in, you have what are called credits. The average user has 15 credits. Every time you download a picture, that's worth a certain amount of credits. Right here. So right now I'm not logged in to my current account, so I can't see the amount of credits. But a small is usually 1 credit, a medium is usually 2 credits. And you can only use 15 credits a day, but it refills once the day starts, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, textures.com, a very, very good place to find your own textures. Now, let's say I wanted a stone texture. like before. Rock. Let's go cliff. And let's just pick a random one. Let's pick... let's go with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and download this real quick. Okay, so once downloaded, I'm back in Cheetah 3D. It'll appear in your downloads right here. So you can just open it up real quick just to get a preview. There it is. So let's say you wanted to give, for some reason, this box a rock texture. Don't know why you would want to, but let's just pretend. What you would do, go to Material. This gives you your default texture. You go up to this button here next to Diffuse, click on it, click Textures, and then click Image. Then this will pop up. You want to click Texture, Load, and it is in my downloads right here. So there's your texture there, all loaded up. You can either drag it onto here or into here. There's your rock texture. If you really want an image to be textured on there. It's good for backgrounds, but usually when there's as much depth as this picture here, with all the rocks sticking out, you usually don't want to use this, but this is just an example. So let's say you want to add this to your library. Well, you would right click on the texture, click Save Material, and then you have your folders here. You can put it in your stone here if you want, and then name it. So I'll name it Cliff Rocks. And now if I go into stone, Cliff Rocks ends up right here. Now what if I wanted to create a new category? Well, if you want to create a new category, I'm going to My Mac Pro, Option Go, Library. Go to Cheetah 3D. And you go to your materials. And this is where you can add a new folder. And that's where my cloth and environment folders came from. Now, we're gonna get a little more into the complicated stuff now with textures. Now we're gonna talk about the node editor right here. The node editor can be tricky. It can do a lot of things, and people can be intimidated by its power. So we're just gonna take a look at it. So I'm gonna get a ball. And I'm going to give it a default texture. And just for a color differentiation, I'm going to make it kind of a make it that color. Now let's go into the node editor. So the node editor looks like this. Now here you can take textures like this and you can make modifications to make them look different. So you add node, and there are a bunch of different things you can put on. I want to take a look at the textures. So let's say you wanted this to have a lot of turbulence. No, let's click noise to make its bump map a little rougher. So we're gonna go to value, bump map. Now we can scale this. So let's start at 50. So now we have a slightly rougher textured one. So now if we look at it, it looks like that. If we want it to be smoother, let's make it 150. There we go, that's a bit better. That's the differentiation there. Maybe you want to make it reptile-like. So value bump map. Now you can kind of see the reptile texture there. And then you can kind of control how thick it is with the radius here. So I can make it more noticeable. See, that's much better. Now that you can see. Or maybe I wanted to put a shader on. Maybe I wanted to make it appear metal. And I can just give it a similar color to what it was like before. Like that. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Another shader is membrane. That's the translucent thing from the others. So like this. But why do that when you already have membrane in here? But this way you can edit the membrane and add other stuff to it that I'm not going to go through. I think the node editor is mainly something that you just kind of have to experiment with on your own. So yeah, maybe I'll go into the node editor in another video, but I really do want you to figure it out for yourself. I really hate to say that in a tutorial video, but there's really nothing to teach you unless I'm giving you an example of how to actually build something. And this is not what the video is about. This video is about textures. There's one more thing I want to talk about with textures, and that's scaling them and positioning them. So I'm going to get grass and a plane spread it out. I'm going to add the grass to it. There you go. Let's say you think the grass blades are too big. Well, what you can do is you can click grass, click the checkered box, and now you can edit it. So you can change the position like this. Oops. You can change the position on the other axis as well. Or you can change the scale. The scale makes the texture bigger or smaller. So smaller or bigger. So you wanted your smaller grass? Well, there's your smaller grass right there. Except you kind of have to be careful, again, because of kind of the repeating squares that you're seeing around here. So just be careful with that, is all I have to say. So you can just adjust that from there. And of course you have like other things to play around with. But I'll leave that up to you to play with. And that pretty much does it for textures. And I will see you guys again in the next tutorial or behind the scenes video or whatever I'm doing on this channel.